Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence, we go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun. Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence, we go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything, and you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
All right, guys. Today's date, August 21st, 2021, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, on How the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. Before I do get started, we do try to be a family-friendly podcast, but sometimes words do fly, and sometimes things may be shown that might have harsh language or a graphic nature for young viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So, let's go ahead and get into it, guys. I still got to ask this question when it comes to Marjorie Taylor Greene. Is that, you know what? It goes to show you that you can say anything you want on a social media platform and it doesn't affect your job as long as you're Republican. And I mean by this. Now, before I play this, guys, this is completely unedited. Your discretion is advised. It does contain a certain language. It does contain a certain word that you probably don't want kids to hear.
Biden, you're not a president. You're a piece of shit. Joe Biden, you're not a president. You're a piece of shit. Joe Biden, you're not a president. You're a piece of shit. Joe Biden, you're not a president. You're a piece of shit.
Yes, we played that several times because, yes, you heard exactly what you believe you heard, which was Marjorie Taylor Greene, the very same Marjorie Taylor Greene that decided to make wonderful QAnon conspiracies, the same Marjorie Taylor Greene that her and her staff had issues with other politicians to the point that they had to be separated in Congress, the same Marjorie Taylor Greene that went after AOC complaining about her previous status as a bartender, the same Marjorie Taylor Greene that has actually compared mass to the Auschwitz and to very other atrocities, and now the same Marjorie Taylor Greene that is out there pretty much calling our current president a piece of crap. I'm trying to figure out how in the world does she still have a job? Because here's my thing. I talked about Dorito for 4 years. Now, yes, Dorito was probably the worst president we've ever had. And I mean, there was some outstanding low bars already out there. And we already knew what Trump was. But you never saw one politician aside from another individual. But then again, it was rightly said that they called him exactly that word. But that being said, you never see anyone go out of their way to insult the president at every turn. Marjorie Taylor Greene was doing that. And again, I still have to ask myself, how is it that when a Democrat gets in trouble in hot water, they resign? They leave their position, no fighting at all. But when it comes to Republicans, oh no, we have to stay. We're going to stay. We're going to say everything we want to say and pretty much F the consequences. Because I'm still wondering about Marjorie Taylor Greene. Where does she fit in all this? Because in my opinion, she's getting literally paid for doing nothing. Because I keep on telling people, she's been stripped of all her budget obligations, which means that she's not on a committee of any sort. She's not on any committee. She's literally going around making over $170,000 a year. Yes, we're paying her. She's making over $170,000 a year, going around campaigning for Trump and everything else down the line. But that's it. she can say it's almost like it is almost like she has the perfect job. You're getting paid to talk a lot of nonsense, and you're getting paid by the American taxpayer. Oh, and you just insulted the president. And I'm just thinking to myself, Republicans, I don't get you guys. I don't. It's like, how in the world could you sit there and even though you might have some disagreements with the current administration, you're going to flat out call them what you will. And again, the only reason they do this is because there's no consequences. There's none. In a world where we sit there and teach kids, hey, your choices have consequences, what you say or what you do, your actions will always have consequences. We've been saying that. And now you get this person. And I call it the Trump effect because Trump said a lot of stuff during his presidency and during his campaign that you think if anybody else would have said it, that would have been the end of their presidential run, much less their presidential campaign to be elected. But again, what has Trump shown us? That he's one, it's like, it just seems to be that those guys can sit there and say anything they want and there's no consequence. But there's a dangerous precedent to that. Is because other people are going to see what they're doing and try to do the same thing, and consequences will follow them. And again, this is the part where I sit there and I say this. There's just something utterly wrong about that. But again, unfortunately, with Marjorie Taylor Greene, there's nothing that really can be done about her until Kevin McCarthy, which is the minority House leader, he's the only person that can actually vote to have her removed. And I'm sorry, Republicans and the Chinese have two things in common. They will never out their own. So, unfortunately, we're stuck with her. But anyway, moving right along, in other news I wanted to catch you guys up on the weekend review is Nabisco. Nabisco is actually on strike. And I did not know this until yesterday, where, again, Nabisco workers are on strike in 4 different states. Which again, they're pretty much saying that I did not know this, that Nabisco, because they have a union, have been working without a union contract. Quote unquote, more than 1,000 Nabisco workers are staying off the job in Colorado, Illinois, Oregon, and Virginia. The labor dispute began with workers in the Nabisco factory in Portland calling strike nearly 3 weeks ago, and since it spread, with Chicago joined the labor action. Did not know that they've been working without a contract since the end of May. That's the weird part. For a union, I mean, unions usually have a contract with a company to make sure that certain things are done. I keep saying this for you guys. I keep saying this. Unions work. If it wasn't for unions, you wouldn't have a 40-hour work week. You wouldn't have a PTO or vacation. You wouldn't have a paid time off. You wouldn't have vacation pay. You wouldn't have hazard pay. You wouldn't have a lot of things. And that's just the top 4. The top 4 things that unions are responsible for are what almost every American person has in their job or career. All because of unions. Now, again, the fact that they've been working on a contract since May says a lot. Apparently, the negation. That was just a terrible word. Negotiations, there we go, have broken down, and such. They decide to go on strike. And again, the reasons why is because the parent company, Mondelez International, have proposed changes where this is the crazy part. Which again, I wish I could make this up, and I want to show you guys so that way you can see what I'm saying. So, Mondelez International had, which is the parent company that is actually doing the union agreement with these workers. This was their proposal. Their proposal changes was turning 8-hour shifts into 12-hour ones without overtime. Workers will receive overtime on the 6th or 7th day, provided that they work their scheduled hours during the week. The company is also proposing that new hires shoulder additional cost of health insurance. Wow. I'm just saying, that is crazy. That is utterly crazy. Imagine that the parent company is arguing and saying, okay, well, part of your union contract, guys, I know you already work 8-hour shifts, but let's bump them up to 12. Oh, and you're working 12-hour shifts with no overtime, except on the 6th or 7th day. But that means you have to give us 5 days. Now, this is the crazy part. You have to give us 5 days of 12-hour shifts. So when Saturday and Sunday come around, they're considered overtime. Guys, 12 times 5 is 60. By literally 12 hours. So after the 3rd day, between the 3rd and 4th day, well, actually a little bit into the 4th day, you're already over 40 hours. So by the time you get to day 5, and at the end of day 5, on a 12-hour shift, that's 60. So at 60 hours, which is 20 hours over the 40-hour work week. So that's 20 hours that you don't get overtime pay for. But the other 24 on Saturday and Sunday, you do get. Do you see how utterly crazy that sounds? That's slave labor. And I don't blame the workers for this. And on top of that, that new workers have to shoulder the additional cost of health insurance. You know, at a time when I'm probably going to show my age here, but I don't care. I'm going to go ahead and say it. I'm 38 years old. Okay, I remember working I remember working my first job at 15, 16 years old. Here in a factory here in Nashville. Factory's no longer here. It's called Sanders. For all those that want to know, but Sanders Manufacturing was the name of the factory I worked at when I was 15, 16 years old. Now, keep in mind, that whole thing about health insurance then, almost, wow. I had to think, I do the math on that. Almost 25 years ago. Well, no, that'd make me 13. Let's just say almost 20 years ago. Almost 20 years ago, you would have never heard of the fact that an employee and health insurance and pay would all be associated in the same sentence. It was usually done by the company. The company went ahead and they paid the health insurance. You just signed up for it as a way of saying the company's going to say, we're going to take care of you. Now, somewhere between that now, of course, healthcare costs had changed. Of course, healthcare costs had increased, if you will. But now they're trying to sit there and say, okay, well, if you're going to join us at Nabisco, that because you're new, you're going to be paying more than the current workers in health insurance. This is all nuts. This is completely and utterly nuts, and I cannot blame them for this. Because who in the world would agree to that? I mean, keep in mind, this is still during a pandemic. This is still during where folks have to worry about COVID, and you have those jobs out there that unfortunately, if you have a job that requires you to be in person and in contact with others, there's also that threat. So again, it's just this level of it's almost plain Jane ignorance is what it is. And I cannot believe that a parent company is negotiating this to the point to where they think it makes sense. It doesn't. And this is why, guys, I keep saying this, and I will not stop saying this. This is the reason why we need unions. Because do not honestly trust corporations. Seriously and figuratively, don't trust corporations. I'm sorry, there is no such thing as corporate loyalty. That if you die on, and I've said this many times, if you croak at your job, that job opening will be the newspaper faster than your obituary. They don't care. And you can tell by the way they offer this to those Nabisco workers, like this is the greatest thing ever. Let me tell you something. As a person who used to work 12-hour shifts, they're not fun. They are terrible. They honestly suck. So 8 hours, I could understand. 8 hours is a little bit more feasible. Now, for those like 12 hours, because you like 12-hour shifts, that means you work 4 days. That means actually you work 4 days and you get 3 days off. I understand the allure. But in a factory like Nabisco, where you're constantly pumping out product, but you're working 12-hour shifts 7 days a week, that's too much. There's not enough pay in the world to justify killing yourself at a job like that. It just really isn't. So we'll just follow that story as it goes along. But I just thought that was crazy that a company thinks that makes sense. And feel free you guys to add in the comments what you believe about that, because it's just ludicrous. This is the reason why we keep on saying here on how the Frack got here, unions work. Now, the other story I wanted to get into, which again is interesting, but then again, I shouldn't be surprised by this. Mississippi officials are warning about the use of anti-parasite treatments to treat COVID cases because of an uptick to the Poison Control Center in Mississippi. Why is there an uptick? Is because, and I wish I could make this up, that a lot of individuals in Mississippi are basically taking ivermectin. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. If not, I completely apologize. but ivermectin, a drug commonly used for livestock. Now, the reason why this is supposed to basically, now people are thinking, oh, well, why are people taking livestock medicine? Well, let me explain what ivermectin is. Ivermectin is basically approved by the Food and Drug Administration to treat humans with intestinal complications caused by parasitic worms and topically used to treat conditions like head lice and rosacea. So, if you got an issue with your stomach or if you got head lice, that's the only reason we use it. This drug is also used to prevent heartworm disease and parasites in animals. So, and of course, because they got to say this, ivermectin is not approved or recommended by the FDA to treat or prevent COVID-19 in humans. So, these are the tablets that basically are given to animals that some people in Mississippi are actually taking and giving themselves and poisoning themselves. Because I don't know if anyone's ever told them this. You don't take the same thing a cow takes because number one, that's a higher dose. It's a higher dose, which is safe for animals, toxic for humans. But you know what this reminds me of? Where did they get this idea? Now, I am almost certain, without actually doing any research, this is how confident I am, that I guarantee if you go on to QAnon or you go to somebody who believes they're a medical expert because they searched the WebMD, I guarantee it's somewhere to where they can look it up and sit there and say, yes, this will help prevent, our studies believe that this will help prevent you from getting COVID-19. But here, take the same thing that's actually due for a cow, but you take it as a human. Let's see how far that gets. I wish I could make this up, guys, but that just feels like Darwin to me. It does. It feels like Darwin to me. It's like, why would you take something, especially like hydrochloroquine? Again, that famous word. Remember hydrochloroquine? Remember Trump couldn't stop saying hydrochloroquine? You guys take hydrochloroquine, or you guys should drink bleach, or you guys should do all these other things. Remember? This is where that comes from. And of course, you shouldn't take hydrochloroquine anyway, because again, the effects on it on healthy individuals is not a good thing. But again, ivermectin, again, in small doses, is used for certain things on humans. But you don't take the same dose that is due for Bessie the cow back on the farm, and that you should take it thinking it's going to help you. Again, I can only stress this, guys, so much about COVID-19. You should only go to reputable sources. I'm talking the CDC, the National Health Institute, Doctors Without Borders, the World Health Organization. Those are reputable places to where you can get information. And at the same time, please, please, oh please, stop listening to the so-called health professionals on social media. The ones that sit there and say, well, this shot's not FDA approved. Well, I'm pretty sure there's some things in your life that you've taken that aren't FDA approved, but that still doesn't stop you. That also being said, be smart. Please do not take something that's intended for a livestock animal for yourself. That would just be redundant. And Darwin. It really would. But then again, it's Mississippi. Take it how you will. So, moving right along, I did want to talk about the other two stories back to back because, again, they are going to basically shape our new normal because we are never going to go back to the way things were. That's just not going to happen. For all those that think we want to get back to the way things were, that's gone. That was gone the moment a lot of people realized that, hey, I don't want to get the shot, and the Delta variant came around, and we went 10 steps back. So, unfortunately, we're never going to, and instead of us doing the smart thing, like shutting everything down and riding this out again, we decided that we're going to keep everything open. Cool. However, now, the new normal is, you're going to have to show your work. I'm talking about the simple fact of the matter. Well, let's use University of Virginia, for example. The University of Virginia is disenrolling 200 or more students, more than 200 students who didn't meet the vaccine mandate. Students who comply with the vaccine requirement or file the exemption will be able to re-enroll. However, I've been saying this, what's going to wind up happening is just because the simple fact of the matter, what's going on out there is that a lot of places are not wanting to close, but they want to stay open. So what's the in between? You're going to have to show your work. You're going to have to show that you've been you have to show that you've been vaccinated or you have an exemption. So in this case, the University of Virginia decided that at least 238 students, including 49 students who were enrolled in fall courses, were disenrolled after receiving multiple reminders via email, text, phone calls to parents that they were out of compliance. So, This is one of the things we saw coming. 238 students who sat there and said, well, I'm not going to get the shot and you can't make me. The university said, okay, cool. We respect your decision. You can't come here. So I can only imagine what's going to wind up happening is just that, for the simple fact of the matter is, yeah, there'll probably be blowback. There will probably be a lot of arguments. I'm pretty sure on Fox News they're going to be sitting there saying, well, this is un-American, because a lot of people get this messed up about freedoms. Here's the thing: no one is forcing you to do anything. I bring this up because number one, I'm on social media all the time. Number two, I see plenty of those out there who sit there and say that their rights are being trampled on, that their things are. I said, no, your rights are not being trampled on, because if your rights are being trampled on, then what will wind up happening is that everybody would be forced against their will to get a shot. That's your rights being trampled on. The fact of the matter, they're sitting there saying, okay, please get vaccinated so we can get back to our way of life, and you say no, is a shining example that you still have your rights. If someone sits there and says no to it, I'm not getting the vaccine shot. You know what happens? You know what they usually sit there and say? Okay, you've made your choice. And a lot of you are going to sit there and be like, well, just because they're not forcing us, they're just making things difficult. It's amazing how you sit there and are happy about the fact that you get to exercise your freedoms in one direction, but then you want to get mad when a business or a university or a school decides to turn around and exercise their right to operate. So you're happy about the fact that you get to do whatever you want, but you're mad that the consequences of whatever you get to do are infringed upon. I have been saying this, folks. For all those who are unvaccinated, I have been saying this. Your consequences don't affect just you. They affect everyone. And you think schools are the only ones doing this? Oh no. Schools are not the only ones out there who are literally sitting there saying, okay, well, if you're not vaccinated, you can't come here. New York itself has a shining example of what they're doing as far as vaccinations go. And if you're unvaccinated in New York, you might not like the next few things that are about to be said.
On going out to eat inside New York City restaurants anytime soon, you need to be vaccinated. Beginning August 16th, proof of vaccination will be required to eat inside a restaurant, exercise in a gym, or enjoy indoor concerts and performances. The city will start enforcing the rules September 13th after a brief transition period. Mayor Bill de Blasio addressed this earlier on CBS This Morning.
In the end, this guarantees the safety of everyone involved. And it's also going to encourage a lot of people just take that next step.
To follow suit.
Follow suit. Especially, look, young people need, I can say I have two 20-somethings. Sometimes young people need a little encouragement. They want to go to restaurants and bars and concerts. Get vaccinated and you're in. I want people to get vaccinated to feel they can live life fully, have a lot of freedom. The reward of vaccination is freedom. Tragically, if you don't get vaccinated, you're going to be left out.
So joining us now to discuss this is internal medicine specialist and immunologist Dr. Nita Ogden. So this is the first in the nation.
Okay, I just want to cut it off right there because, again, that's straight from Mayor Bill de Blasio's mouth. If you are not vaccinated, you will be left out. And I can see a whole bunch of people, and it's like, you would think, again, this is going to be a whole bunch of people in New York that's going to sit there and be like, well, I just think that this is not right. This is messed up. How dare they? And I'm like, but businesses are moving forward. Schools are moving forward. States are moving forward. And at the same time, what are you mad about? You're still unvaccinated. You still got what you want. But it's going to be harder for me to do things because others have made decisions that you are not happy with. And like I said before, if I owned a business, like one day I have this crazy idea that I want to own a White Castle franchise because I love White Castle. It's better than Crystals. That's a whole nother day for a whole nother argument. But if I open up a White Castle franchise in the middle of a pandemic, yes, I'm going to sit there and say, if you're unvaccinated, you can't, we don't serve unvaccinated people. Now, again, Business 101, that would if this was any other day and age, Business 101 would say, don't kill your money. However, in this case, a lot of companies are moving forward with that. It's like, hey, if you're vaccinated, you can come in. If you're unvaccinated, then you can't dine here. You could probably get takeout. Some of them are doing that. Even more so that more restaurants are doing that. But again, if you're unvaccinated, I'm not going to beat the bush on that one because I already have beaten the drum. I have already sat there and said, the differences on what to expect and what not to expect. The world is moving forward with the new normal. And the new normal is we are learning to live with this pandemic until we finally get COVID cases down. For a lot of people that think we're going to shut down again, I was one of them. But until, the number got any higher, I would say shutdowns are bound to happen. But a lot of people are still wanting to move forward and not going back to shutdowns, which means, for the simple fact of the matter, guys, I'm not going to say it's like The Walking Dead where you have two different types of people out there, but it's going to get to a point where the unvaccinated are going to have to decide whether now to get vaccinated or to figure out other ways. The crazy thing about this is, and I want to keep pointing this out for all those that don't say it's FDA approved. Yes, FDA approval does take 2 years of testing once the vaccine is released. However, it was released under special authorization. So I just want to ask people, for all those that are watching this are unvaccinated, what would happen if the FDA did approve the Moderna, Pfizer, and Johnson & Johnson vaccines? What if they did approve them yesterday? What's the argument? Because I'm going to be honest with you, as before we move on to the next story, if the FDA did approve those 3 vaccines, let's just say hypothetically yesterday, then that means that they can enforce the fact of the matter those jobs are now liability free, which means that any company out there can sit there and say, hey, we need you to get this FDA approved vaccine or we can fire you and there's no repercussions to us. And that's the thing that a lot of unvaccinated people should be paying attention to, because the moment that the FDA approves it, the moment that companies can sit there and say, oh, so we can't be sued for this now? Cool. And that's what will happen. We're already seeing that, guys, we're already seeing that with some jobs out there. They're actually requiring their workers, especially in hospitals. Everybody should be vaccinated in hospital. Federal workers definitely should be vaccinated. Just because of where they go and how many of them are out there, it's going to get to the point where every company's going to start doing that. And you can't complain about losing a job, simply put, because you don't want to get vaccinated. Just saying. But moving right along, guys, I did want to cover this story because, again, Republicans and the craziest things they say, and there's no repercussions. And for this part, I wish I could make this up.
States, including Texas, and that state's Republican Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick is falsely implying that it's black people's fault.
The COVID is spreading, particularly most of the numbers are with the unvaccinated, and the Democrats like to blame Republicans on that. Well, the biggest group in most states are African Americans who have not been vaccinated. The last time I checked, over 90% of them vote for Democrats in their major cities and major counties.
Let's set the record straight. I want to bring in Dr. Cedric Dark, Assistant Professor of Emergency Medicine at Baylor College of Medicine in Houston. Dr. Dark, welcome to the show. I'm glad to have you here because let me read this from our CNN fact check, okay? It says, facts first. Just on raw numbers, black people, about 13% of the total population, are not the biggest group of unvaccinated people either in Texas or across the U.S. An analysis by the Kaiser Family Foundation found that white adults account for the largest share of unvaccinated adults. So the Lieutenant Governor is wrong, but what's your reaction?
Well, first reaction is don't blame black people for your failure to implement mitigation mechanisms like masking and, vaccinating in the people who you employ. As you said, there are 3.7 million unvaccinated white people in Texas, which is vastly more than black people in Texas that are unvaccinated, 5.6 million versus 1.9 million. Now, last time I checked, I'm a minority still in the population, and there may be some half-truths that we're told in terms of percentages of people vaccinated when you divide that by race. 40% of white people in Texas are vaccinated, only 29% of black people in Texas. But as you said, this is a numbers game. The more people you have, the more people that are unvaccinated, the more likely we are to spread this virus.
You gotta love numbers, huh? Oh, what are you guys saying? Hey, Kelly, that also means that they need to answer the question as to why they won't get vaccinated if it's approved. Yeah, pretty much. They have to answer that question if it does become FDA approved. You're exactly right. But I want to get to this stupid statement that this Lieutenant Texas governor said behind Greg Abbott, that sat there and said that the reason for the vaccination issues is because black people are the largest group of unvaccinated individuals. Yeah, so somebody didn't check the actual percentages before they went on Fox News and decided to spew everything. So this is why I say, guys, facts matter. Facts matter. Numbers don't lie. At the same time, there has to be some accountability. There has to be some. If not any, there needs to be some. For the simple fact of the matter, guys, I have been saying this for the longest time. It honestly makes no sense, above all else, that you're going to go on to Fox News, which I expect. Fox News is the propaganda machine. It is everything that the Mayo people love. And I say Mayo people because I can't say what I want to say, because Zuckerberg apparently is always listening. Apparently he's missed a lot. But again, this is one of those things where it's like, well, black people are not the largest group of unvaccinated people out there. It's Mayo people. So again, I've been saying this way. It's the fact of misinformation. People will take misinformation faster than they'll take anything else. They won't, aside from the truth. But again, the truth is, just like, they try to sit there and say, I love this one. You probably remember this one, where black people are the biggest consumers of welfare services, which come to find out, again, that's not true. Mayo people. Look at Mississippi, look at Kentucky, look at Tennessee. The majority of those on welfare services are Caucasians. Black people, less than a third. Numbers. Wonderful things. But again, I wonder what his but again, he's a lieutenant governor in Texas. And at the same time, we've seen what Greg Abbott has gotten away with. But technically, he's got coronavirus. So thoughts and prayers. I know that's petty as all get out. But moving right along, I did want to cover this guy. If you guys remember, about a week ago, I did cover here in Tennessee. I call it rich country because Williamson County basically is of more well-off parents. Well, well-off people, I should say, and Mayo people. But again, this dad comes forward and he actually speaks some common sense, because you guys got to remember, this is the time when Williamson County's district got together and they were mandating masks in school, and a bunch of Mayo people lost their minds. In this case, this man came forward a week after this and actually spoke some common sense, which I wish a lot more people would do.
Of a new kindergartner, and her first day was right after the chaos last week. She went to school and was one of just a few kids in her class wearing a mask, which made her ask me why she had to. My answer was because we want to take care of other people. She's 5 years old, but she understood that concept, and it's disappointing that more adults around here can't seem to grasp it. Avoiding masks is not in the Bible, but taking care of others is. And now today we have Governor Lee's executive order to allow opt-outs, which is government overreach undercutting a local decision. If you only like democracy when it goes your way, you don't actually like democracy. Thank you.
I couldn't have said better myself. And he literally sat there and said, it's like we only want to wear masks, take care of other people. And again, he brings up that because, and it's kind of edited, because he said he went to his friend who was a preacher and asked him, was there any religious examples in the Bible? Because again, with the mask off thing, that you do have to you can cite a religious exemption, which a lot of people, Mayo, decided to go ahead and use their religions as exemptions. Let's try this again. Decided to use their religions as exemptions to get out of mask wearing. So now, as a elder's kid and, former person that used to go to church, it's kind of been a while, but sorry, I don't know what happened just now, but I can say right now, there's nothing in the Bible that says there's nothing in the Bible that regulates masks. Let me be honest, I don't see Jesus out there saying, here's my greatest commandments, folks. Love one another, treat people as the way you want to be treated, and if they give you a mask, say deny thyself a mask, preferably N95. I don't see Jesus saying that. But again, it's not in the Bible. There's nothing in the religious exemption that says you don't need to wear it, that it prevents you from wearing a mask. That would be Sharia law, and that would be geared toward Afghan women, which kind of says a lot if you look at the Taliban Republicans and see there's not really a big difference there. That also being said, folks, the Williams County father had a point. We're here, we wear a mask to take care of other people, and his 5-year-old daughter got it. And yet grown people, as you just saw in that video up there, were yelling about wearing a mask. A mask that would simply help to reduce cases of COVID. Which, by the way, those 1,000 students I talked about in the National Public Schools, 1,000 students as of last week were quarantined after 1 week. 1,000 students. In Florida, 8,000 students after 1 week. Teachers and students across the board have actually died from initially contacting with COVID, and they died later. I don't know what more to tell you guys at this point, or what more it'll take. But for the simple fact of the matter is, wear a mask. It's not that freaking hard. But speaking of crazy things, I wish, and this story is definitely going to be crazy, was the fact of the matter is that this individual ran over 2 people because she believed they were Mexican or Middle Eastern. What's going to be crazy? The time she got for the crime.
Nicole Franklin seems confused during her court appearance Friday morning.
Do you understand that? Not really. Well,
she was charged with attempted murder as a result of a hit-and-run December 9th that left 14-year-old Natalia Miranda battered and severely bruised.
I remember waking up in the snow, and I'm screaming, I'm crying, I'm like, how did this happen? What just happened? Why am I on the snow?
The last thing she remembers is a white vehicle coming at her. Clive police had few clues to go on, so they immediately went to work.
From the moment this happened, our officers were out knocking on doors, checking for home video surveillance, checking with bus drivers.
That helped them come up with a suspect vehicle. They learned someone was arrested in a similar vehicle at this West Des Moines gas station about an hour after Miranda was hit by the vehicle in Clive. Clive investigators spoke to Nicole Franklin in the Polk County Jail.
During the interview, Franklin not only admitted to being the driver of the car that struck this girl, but also that she had done so intentionally. Franklin told investigators that she ran the girl over because she was, in her words, a Mexican.
Whether hate crimes will be added to Franklin's charges is still up in the air, but it is something Clive police say they are looking into.
I want to say in the strongest terms possible that there is no place in our community, or any other for that matter, for this type of hatred or violence.
So basically, that story, as it updates, that she got 25 years. 25 years for a hate crime. Keep in mind, she ran over someone, as she says, I thought they were Mexican, so I ran them over. Attempted murder. I'm trying to figure out how is it not murder one. That's premeditated. First and foremost, that's premeditated. She ran over someone because she thought. Premeditated. I'm like, how is that not just attempted murder? I get the way the justice system is. I do, but is it, I mean, you guys tell me differently in the comments. I mean, 25 years. She sought to end the life of someone because of her own hate, of her own racism and bigotry. That she was about to end somebody's life. I'm sorry, I'm one of those where the punishment fits the crime scenario. You were about to take a life, your life is forfeit. You should be looking at life in prison without the pursuit of parole. That's just me. Because if you made it up in your mind to go ahead and run over somebody, simply put, because you didn't like them or didn't like what they are, or their nationalities or gender or whatever they are, you decide that you want to end their life, that should have been life in prison. Because at that point, you made a conscious decision to do something and you wanted to end their life. There's just no way around that. But 25 years, it feels like a slap on the wrist to me. It really does. What are you guys saying? If something bad COVID-related happened, then they would be crying, saying why they didn't do more. Yep. Same story, old as time. We saw that with Phil Valentine's family here in Nashville, where he got COVID. And there's all, beforehand, he was like, well, I don't know about the vaccine, or I don't know if I should do it. He got COVID, and what all his brother and family saying, please go get vaccinated. Please, guys, get vaccinated. It's just like racism. They will not understand it until it hits close to home. And a lot of people are like that. She should have had more time. Yeah, she should have. She really, really should have had more time. It really should have happened, especially in that case of attempted. I mean, it's premeditated murder. Attempted murder just doesn't do justice to it. That's just my opinion of it all. But we will see as they are bringing up other cases. And actually, I wanted to cover these last two stories before we get. One story I wanted to get to. Simply put, because guys, with this COVID situation out there, I have been saying there is one thing that's going to happen that a lot of people are not paying attention to. It's the fact that these nurses, doctors, nurses aid, doctors aid, those are out there who are really trying to keep COVID at bay, who have been doing it since last year, that there is an issue that's going to go on here, aside from a shortage of staff, nurses, and equipment. Specifically, nurses and doctors who will experience burnout. And of course, anybody who's ever experienced burnout, we all know how that feels. But imagine in an already pandemic and extreme crisis that nurses want to walk off the job. Because it happened to one, and the way she describes it could happen to more than one.
Cases surge across the country, mostly among the unvaccinated. The strain on our healthcare system and our frontline workers as bad as it's ever been. Some states are having to limit capacity at hospitals because staffing levels are so low. And tonight, there is real concern about burnout. Our Ariel Resha reports.
On the front lines of a seemingly unrelenting pandemic, tonight healthcare workers are stretched thin, nearing a breaking point.
I think our biggest need right now is nursing staff. We are very short of nursing staff.
Nurses in hospitals across the country are finding themselves overworked and emotionally drained.
Where I might only see one death in one of my shifts, like maybe every week, maybe every other week, I was seeing multiple deaths a night.
According to Health and Human Services, more than 80,000 people are now hospitalized across the country. There are less and less ICU beds available. ABC's Victor Okendo reporting from the University of Florida.
Of course, if you create more ICU bed, you need trained ICU nurses.
The challenge now facing hospitals is more than just finding beds for patients. They need to find people to treat them, too.
We were thin already. We had lost a number of staff over the course of 2020, and we've been working hard to replace those. So we're thinner than ever before, and this is obviously putting a real strain on the system.
Celebrated as heroes, it's easy to forget the devastating impact the pandemic has had on nurses and doctors.
I have no idea how to help my own nurses anymore. They're leaving the profession, they're leaving their job, and we need to have a solution. We need to end this.
Jennifer Steenberg is the intensive care unit nursing supervisor at Memorial Hermann Southwest Hospital in Houston. She's begging for more help.
I don't see an end in sight. I am now seeing that the sky is falling, and I'm really trying hard not to be that person. But I've done this now for 18, 20 months. And I don't see a way out. That vaccine was our way out, and we're losing our grip on that.
All across the country, including the hard-hit South, where vaccination rates are the lowest, there is an increasing demand for more nurses and more medical staff. In Mississippi, where vaccination rates are only 36%, the same story.
It is exhausting. We spend a week in the ICU per intensivist, and by the end of that week, we are completely drained both emotionally and physically. We work in a team with our nurse practitioners, and so are they. But more than anything else, it's our nurses and the respiratory therapists who basically do this day in and day out, and I'm actually more worried about them.
For nurses like Paulette Rangel, it got to be too much.
As much as we threw at them as far as treatments and medication and things like that, there was just not enough that we could do to save some of them.
Rangel was a nurse for 9 years, 7 in intensive care. She was named Arizona's Nurse of the Year in 2015 by the March of Dimes organization.
You know what the right thing to do is, and you're doing everything that you can for these patients, but ultimately all of those things are out of your control, and that really just, it changes you.
There was no single tipping point, but she says the unending stream of patients for what is now a preventable illness wore her down.
I went over to my supervisor and asked if I could step down, to fewer work days. And I was denied because we didn't have enough staff.
Paulette left her job last week.
And that just wasn't something that I could handle anymore. And so I made the decision to leave.
Taking a position instead as a supervisor with a local nonprofit administering vaccines.
You just get so mad. You have this anger towards the system, and having to suffer through this in what you feel like is alone, and nobody understands what we go through.
A statement released by the Florida Hospital Association says 3 out of 4 hospitals there are facing nursing shortages. Mississippi's governor addressing the challenges at a press conference Friday, saying the state has lost 2,000 healthcare professionals in the last year.
Our challenge is much less about the physical aspect of hospital beds or the physical aspect of ICU beds, and it's much more about actually staffing them.
As officials wait for assistance, they're turning to traveling nurses to help fill the staffing gaps. In Texas, 2,500 medical personnel are on the way to relieve hospital workers being pushed to the limit.
Because we have so much less staff, the patient to nurse and doctor ratio is the worst it's ever been.
With so many hospitals nearing a breaking point, nurses like Rangel not ruling out helping their colleagues again.
I loved my job. I absolutely loved it. I just wasn't in the mental state to be able to properly care for my patients in the way that they deserved.
Ariel Reshef.
That's crazy, isn't it? That the simple fact of the matter is just that's just one case. Now, I'm pretty sure there's several cases out there, like they said, especially in the state of Mississippi, where they've lost over 2,000 healthcare professionals. 2,000 professionals due to burnout. And yes, and I said that's why I give nurses and doctors and those that work in the hospital credit. But the simple fact of the matter is, you guys, for almost well over a year now, have been asked to do more than what you're normally used to. So, if anything, there should be a slight concern that what we're doing here is just that we could be looking at a lot of nurses being burned out. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of incentives going across state for accelerated nursing programs and things of that nature to bring on those that want to go into nursing or go into healthcare professional careers. And as terrible as this pandemic is, it's actually a wonderful time right now if you've ever just wanted to go ahead and become a nurse, and you probably would, get the farm at the moment. But for all those that have been doing it, especially in this last year when the pandemic started, definitely much respect and thank you for your service. And hopefully you guys are taking care of your mental health, because that is more, it is not just the physical, it's the mental. The simple fact of the matter is people are sick and passing away due to COVID, and that's a lot for any nurse or doctor or healthcare professional to take. So definitely mental health is a very big thing. Not just for us that have been cooped up in the house last year. Just saying. So that being said, we're going to go ahead and get into our feel-good news segment because usually how the Frack we got here, we usually cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom. Sometimes they are not very rosy. Sometimes make you lose your faith in humanity. But hey, it's the weekend. You know, if you have the day off, cool. And if not, then hopefully your work day will go by pretty fast. But we try to end every podcast with some hope. Some, make you believe that we still have we can still be okay as a human race kind of thing. And hopefully these three stories will eventually be able to do that, especially with the first story revolving a bunch of kids who decided that they wanted to do their part in helping to end the war on cancer, a real war. I'm sorry, it's supposed to be a feel-good news segment. So basically helping with cancer because we can't really, you know what? I'm going to smile and just move on.
Those in need of an uplifting story, we want to introduce you to some college students spending their summer break cycling for a good cause.
Being on the road for 70 days is pretty hard.
Kirsten Hahn has spent her summer riding thousands of miles across the United States to raise money for cancer research.
Slowing, stopping.
She's one of 85 students from the University of Texas at Austin who signed up for the Texas 4000 for Cancer, the longest annual charity bike ride in the world.
Bye, guys.
Each rider covers more than 4,000 miles, a journey that takes grit, determination, and support, much like the fight against cancer itself.
It doesn't sound like a lot when you first start, but then you're like, oh, like I got myself into this. Rolling right.
Since 2004, nearly 1,000 college students have completed the ride, raising more than $12 million for cancer research.
Headed over towards like Tennessee, Nashville area, went all the way around Michigan, cut over to DC.
This year, the ride spanned more than 5,900 miles for Kirsten and her group. Biking through 16 states and the District of Columbia, they covered 5,907 miles in 70 days.
It's a far way, yeah.
Each rider has their own motivation.
I ride for my uncle.
I'm doing it in her memory. You're riding for those people, and like memories of them really keep you going. Bringing positive energy to other people, and like the hope is like a really big thing for me. Maybe this disease will be cured one day.
On Friday, the riders were welcomed back home to Austin. While the physical journey is over, their pursuit for a cure continues. Riding for hope there.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. Just the fact of the matter is, for those that had definitely or have those that have dealt with cancer, and I mean cancer survivors and those that may have lost the battle of cancer, that's actually cool that they're trying to do something to actually help in the fight against cancer. And there are many ways that you can do that yourself. But like I said, it's good to see that kind of stuff because basically because it definitely hits home for me just because I know some folks that were dealing with cancer, and some of them actually did push through, and some of them are no longer here with us. So it's always great to sit there and see someone or see a group of people who are just trying to do the right thing. That's all we're asking for in this world. Just basically do the right thing. Especially with the next story, which I still say is still probably one of the greatest DoorDash, Uber Eats stories, because the simple fact of the matter is, this was a lot of trust for what this guy did.
Primo! Oh man. Yo, you take my bike, and do the delivery and come back. Once you get the food, once you get the task, the first stress you get is like to take that food to the respective customer on time.
You're working hard on the street, the traffic, sometimes it's raining, more crazy traffic. I'm coming from Brooklyn right now.
Do you have food?
Yeah, I have a food. Start the food in here.
Trust me, the pain is real what Luciano was going through. I had to push like almost 3 hours, like more than 2.5 hours, all the way home from that area, pushing the bike. I had to call the company saying, hey, listen, I cannot do the delivery, I cannot complete, I had a flat tire, I could not fix it.
It's very important for me. My job and my kids is working for me for outside deliveries.
This is something that most people, they don't see it. All they see is, oh, where has my driver reached? Where has my food reached? Why is he late? At the end of the day, once the food is in their hand, he came late, rating, boop, down. But they have no idea with one click of rating going down, how much it affects us, the delivery guys. It's crazy. Oh man, yo, you take my bike, you do the delivery and come back.
Are you sure?
Yeah. He said he has 2 active deliveries, like 2. So I decided that's it, like just take my bike, complete the delivery and come back. But like everything happened in a rush, like we did not exchange any numbers or anything. Primo! No problem, brother. Thank you. Off he goes. Primo! So you're gonna be my primo forever. Here you go, bro. Good job, man. All right, primo.
Now, that's cool. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. He had a lot of faith in that man because he stood there and said, "Man, I did that in such a rush that I didn't get any information. We didn't exchange numbers or nothing, and you trusted a complete stranger to come back with your bike." I mean, that was cool, and even more so that his kindness was returned. And I've been saying this, guys. This is what the world needs a lot more of right now. If you have the ability to make somebody's life great, whether it's a minute, a day, an hour, or a lifetime, go ahead and do so. The world could use more random acts of kindness, and you never know that the kindness you may show somebody may change their life completely. And it definitely changed that guy's life because he sat there and was like, "Oh, I'll let you use my bike. Oh crap, I didn't get any information, but had nothing to worry about." But again, one random act of kindness is all we really need in this world. So finally, the last story I got, guys, is a good one because I like stories like this because, again, graduation is always cool, but it's always great to see a player well, he's a former football player who was paralyzed during practice but was able to walk across the stage due to some help of some artificial limbs. At first, I thought we had Iron Man the first time I saw this, but anyway, check it out.
For Corey Borner, this day was a step into his future. The Texas graduate paralyzed from the waist down, receiving his diploma on his own 2 feet.
You did it.
As a high school football player, Corey severely injured his spinal cord during practice.
I was telling the coach, one more play. And as soon as that one play occurred, I had my head down just a little too low, and I couldn't move nothing from my neck all the way down to my feet.
For the last few months, Corey worked with his doctors to walk with a robotic exoskeleton suit. In June, he took his first step since the injury. And now, after 3 years at the University of North Texas at Dallas, Corey surprising his friends and family in his cap, gown, and the same robotic suit, walking on stage.
I always dreamed of this moment to be able to walk across and surprise people. It was just so amazing.
A dream come true for Corey, but also for his mother, Charlotte.
I love you. He can do anything that he want to do, that he can do, he's gonna try and do.
Corey is eager to push forward one step at a time.
That's one thing about life. It's gonna be hard. It's how you get through life. That smile and that positive attitude will lead you the right way.
I could just end the podcast on that. He's exactly right. But definitely want to give kudos to that man because, like I said, to come back from a gruesome injury like that and still be able to walk across and actually get your degree, nothing more need be said. So, with that being said, guys, that's going to do it for our podcast. I do thank everybody that watched, that liked, that commented, that let people know that we were live. Apologies for it being late, but still got it in. But I still want to thank everybody that still took the time out to watch little old me. I certainly appreciate it. Before I do get out of here, guys, I do got to do some shameless plugging. I do got to come up with my buddy, Big BZA Dot, who has podcasts of his own. You can definitely check him out, Avon Witherspoon on Facebook, Big BZA Dot on all socials, in which he has a smoking trailer Sundays every Sunday from 6:30 to 9 p.m. I can't believe I read that wrong. 6:30 to 9 p.m. in which he gives shows off trailers of movies and video games that he finds interesting, so therefore you might find interesting. He also has the RAF podcast, which is like America's Funniest Home Videos, except done by Woolstar. Definitely for the grown and intended, every Tuesday from 6:30 to 9 p.m. For any news on podcasts or he just wants to play online, definitely check him out. Avon Witherspoon on Facebook, Big BZA Dot on all socials. Of course, shout out to RE&G Present Geek Salad, which you can find them also on Facebook at RE&G Present Geek Salad or on YouTube at RE&G Present Geek Salad. Definitely check them out because they're definitely brethren, podcast brethren, and definitely can do like talk about all things fandom and nerddom and Marvel and things of that nature. I know me and Ari usually have a discussion about Zack Snyder every week, but that's just us. But definitely check them out as well. Of course, yours truly, the link at the bottom, you copy and paste that in your browser, does take you to my link tree for all of my YouTube and Facebook podcasts, for all of my groups, for all my shows that have those groups, both YouTube and Facebook. How the Frack we got here off of this podcast and Get Bit. Of course, nothing has changed except a slight change on Get Bit. We did not do one yesterday on the 19th. We decided that we're going to have a special Sunday edition with a full house tomorrow, the 22nd at 5 p.m. on Facebook Live as well as YouTube. But definitely check us out there. My IG link, BlackFox447. Definitely check that out, like, share, and follow because I post things of movie reviews, video games, and sometimes gem stuff and inspirational stuff. I'm a pretty fun guy sometimes, but definitely check me out. Definitely like and share and follow me there. And with also that being said, guys, if you know people that like this kind of stuff, let them know. Share it. Things of that nature. If you find news articles or you find things that you think that should be of interest to be looked into, definitely let me know about that as well. You can do so by How the Frack We Got Here on the How the Frack We Got Here Facebook group or the YouTube group. Either way, I will get it. Just let me know what you think that should be looked into, and I will definitely do my research. As long as it's reputable, I can do it from a source, I will definitely talk about it. That being said, guys, COVID-19 is real. The Delta variant is worse than the Loki variant. Marvel people will get the reference. If you haven't got the shot already, please, oh please, really reconsider. Reconsider your stance on getting vaccinated. Please reconsider your stance. If you're not wearing a mask, definitely do wear a mask. Keep in mind, we're not only wearing a mask to protect ourselves, we are wearing a mask to take care of others. The only way we're going to get past this pandemic and past this variant is to finally do the things that need to be done for us to move forward. That's how we'll make it. So I am begging, I am pleading with you guys. Think of others, and you'll do more than help yourself. Just saying. That being said, guys, the last thing I'll say about How the Frack We Got Here, it's all about staying informed. We are not trying to change minds, persuade, or do anything of that nature. We're not Fox News. We're not OAN. We're not trying to do any of that. We are just simply trying to present all the facts to you to allow you to make up your own mind. We do a lot better as a society. We're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We change. We actually right the wrongs of history by learning from them and moving forward, like electing our first Madam Vice President who is black. Still open for Michelle Obama in 2024 if she changes her mind. Aside from that, guys, that'll do it for this podcast again. I thank you all for watching. I certainly appreciate the like and the love. And really, as I've said before at the end of every show, take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll get through this. Thanks for watching, guys. If you're watching the playback, please comment if it's live. I still want to know. Aside from that, guys, have a good weekend. Be safe. Be aware wherever you are. Peace.